What's going on, guys? Sly here, and thanks for coming back and checking out another Mass Effect Andromeda video. So, the time has finally freaking arrived. In mere hours, we can step foot into the best science fiction universe in gaming. Now, of course, it's only 10 hours, but good thing I have EA access on Xbox and Origin access on PC. In any case, reviews are already hitting the net, and about 95% of them are what we expected. The game is absolutely ginormous, tons of side quests, the modding and crafting page is borderline overwhelming, and the faces are still a bit off. Everything else seems to be pretty good reviews, except for the rock, paper, shotgun review. The journalist there absolutely tore the game apart. I'll link it in the description box below if you want to read it, but to me it seems like the guy didn't get laid the night before and he's taking it out on the game. At times, he does make valid points, so it is what it is. Anyway, no real spoilers there, it is safe to read. But like I said, most are good reviews. Nothing like Breath of the Wild good, but I'm okay with that. Alright, so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the last aspects of the game, and that is multiplayer. Now, there has been a lot of discussion on how all of this fits together, what the difference between Apex Force and Strike Teams are, do I play multiplayer to get good ending, can I import characters, weapons, etc, etc. So, we're going to sort all of that out. And first, we're going to take a look at the most recent and probably last official gameplay series trailer, the fourth one entitled Part 4 Multiplayer. We'll also take a look at some recent news sent out by the devs and what we can all expect. But before we jump into that, I want to throw out some news as we get closer to launch. There are some misconceptions stirring, and I want to put a few of them to rest right here. First is that you do not need to have Mass Effect Andromeda pre-ordered to be able to play the early access trial. Entering the trial, or any game trial for that matter, is a perk for being a member, besides the tons of games that you can play on there, of course. Not a lot on Xbox, but on PC there are quite a few. Also, if you're seeing tweets about people downloading Mass Effect Andromeda right now, it is a simple preload. Unless they have a review copy, in which it would be a physical disc, you're not getting left behind. Some consoles and programs, even websites, send out codes and allow downloads at different times. Early access trial will be available tomorrow, and one dev told me it would start at 9 AM Pacific, so that's 12 PM here on the East Coast. As far as the game itself, it gets released and is playable at the stroke of midnight wherever you live. As soon as it's the 21st, you're good to go. Alright guys, enough talk, let's jump into some multiplayer finally! So, as we start up, we have a quick introduction to the video, and right off the bat, we see our new lobby, or multiplayer start screen. Now, one thing Mass Effect Andromeda did not do was claim that multiplayer is this, brand new experience. They said right out the gate that it's extremely similar to that of ME3, just brought into 2017. So instead of a blue and red background lobby, we now get an actual view of our character being brought into multiplayer. You can see usernames, whether or not they have chat active, their Apex rating, and of course what kind of character they are bringing into the match. This is a great way to keep things balanced, kind of like Overwatch. You don't want 4 straight up soldiers going into a match. Keeping it balanced between classes opens up the opportunity for a lot more combos, whether they are tech or biotic. And on harder difficulty, you absolutely need combos. As you can see on the right, it's set up just like that of Mass Effect 3. You can select your map, your enemy, and your level, and assumingly you can make it all random as well. I haven't seen random yet, but it would just be dumb not to put it in. From what we know, the difficulty levels are Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Platinum. Also, if you're familiar with Dragon Age Inquisition's their trials, BioWare has said that something similar would take care of that need to make things harder. Now, if they were simply talking about Platinum, I'm not so sure, but Platinum is nothing close to what Trials were, so the multiplayer embargo ends today, so we might get that answer here soon and see a lot more about it. There is still tons of things to discover. They might just be talking about mission modifiers. But as we get into multiplayer itself, you'll notice that the layout is still pretty much the same. You have the new Andromeda radar at the very top, kills are labeled by weapon type or power type, as well as the player and of course the enemy that was killed. Underneath their health and shields, you'll see wave number and overall time, along with currently equipped powers on the right, what buttons they are mapped to, along with the cooldown, and of course the change to individual cooldown instead of global cooldowns carry over into multiplayer. Then on the bottom left, we have the necessities. Now this is being played on a controller, so the D-pad is how you use your power-ups, I guess you could call them. D-pad up is your Cobra RPG. It's the exact same rocket launcher we used in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, something to use, in a pinch against massive, well-armored or well-shielded enemies. However, you don't find these everywhere, and they only drop when opening up crates or buying them in the store, so use them sparingly. You'll see the store here in a second. The D-pad left is a shield boost, D-pad down is to revive yourself with Medigel, but just like everything else here, these do not replenish unless RNG grants them to you in a crate or, like I said, the store. So again, use these sparingly. And then finally, D-pad right is a power-up to refill ammo in case you can't make it out of cover to go grab some. Now favorites cannot be used in multiplayer. Since you have to choose an individual character or kit, they are stuck with those specific skills and nothing else. Well, at least for now. Multiplayer is typically horde mode, but there are rounds where certain objectives have to be met. And after that round is up, it could be another objective or back to straight up horde. Now there are things in multiplayer besides this basic horde mode, but we'll get to that here in a second. And of course there are a certain amount of waves you have to survive, with extraction happening on the last one. Now unlike ME3, you don't get XP based on individual performance. Instead, the entire group shares XP evenly across the board. Doing it this way encourages more team dynamics. For instance, more biotic detonation or tech kills. Those warrant more points, and of course teaming up and doing that throughout the entire round will dramatically give you more points than each of you going, lone wolf and just trying to get it done. Teamwork is how you really get the high score, and of course the more of you that extract, the more points you get, so make sure you pay attention to the countdown. Biggest noob mistake is not paying attention to the wave number and timer, and next thing you know, you're on the opposite side of the map, blasting enemies with blood flying everywhere, having the time of your life. Then you look back and realize that you're the only one left. So keep an eye out, make sure you get with your team. Alright, so going back to character selection, which are also known as kits, there are 25 of these kits available at launch, and they include both Milky Way and Andromeda galaxy species, as well as male and female variants in each, or at least where applicable. Not sure about ket females. So character kits are ordered into rarity. As you can see, each kit profile has a little circle over the picture, and notice that the circles are colored. The very top is bronze, the middle is silver, and the bottom circles are gold. That stands for common, uncommon, and rare. There is also a red variant further down below that stands for ultra rare. You can see it with kind of like a red ribbon going down the middle of it. For instance, the Asari Duelist that was available to play on the show floor at PAX East was an ultra rare kit. The individual level of that certain kit is also shown below the picture. Usually when you see blue arrows pointing upwards, that means you have powers ready to upgrade, whether it be biotic, tech, or combat. After you select your kit, you can go into customization. Now, unfortunately, multiplayer customization wasn't high on their redo list, so it's limited to colors, lights, and patterns. And like I said before, if you choose a character kit that has a helmet on, it stays on without the ability to take it on or off. It's part of that kit's, persona, if you will. Now, earlier this morning, we were given a pretty awesome look at one of the other ultra-rare character kits, the Angaran Avenger, which turns out to be a female Angara. Also, look at that helmet. That thing is pretty sick, right? Now, what's cooler than that helmet, though? Well, how about her power called Stealth Grid? As you can see in her power description, it cloaks you and all allies within a certain radius. On top of that, it grants everyone a damage bonus that gets applied once you break cloak to attack. This will be absolutely awesome for teaming up with a bunch of vanguards or snipers. Also, if you look at the left, notice that there are circles and triangles. Now, I've mentioned this before in one of my single-player breakdowns, but upgrades that have circles next to them are usable powers. Biotic, tech skills, grenades, cloaking, stuff like that. Something that you can actually use and that has a cooldown. While skills that have triangles are more passive upgrades, like fitness in the trilogies. Nothing you can actually use, but it's an upgrade that is present automatically, such as shield strength, health, weapon damage, assault rifle stability, things like that. Not quite sure what bioelectric defense is. It's something new. Maybe it's a melee reflex, something that shocks enemies if they melee you or they get too close. Again, we won't have to wait long in order to find that out. Alright, so next up, let's talk a little about weapons. There will be 40 different kinds of weapons available at launch in multiplayer and single player. Now add that to the fact that you can augment all of these weapons and cross different traits between them. That gives us literally hundreds of different options. However, in multiplayer, Weapons are fairly simple. You can only choose 2 weapons to take with you at any given time, and as you can see, these weapons can be modded, and we'll get to mods here in a little bit when we hit on rewards. But just like Mass Effect 3, you can only equip 2 mods per weapon. Also notice on the far right, you have an equipment slot. That's where one-time mods called boosters can be applied, such as extra shields for the match, extra XP, or various other things. They do expire at the end of the match, and just like Metagel and the Cobra RPG, they can come out of crates, or you can buy them with credits in the store, which we will check out in a little bit. Also, if you can see at the bottom right, badges are back, and just like in Mass Effect 3, the more badges you earn, the more points you and your team can split in the end. Oh, and one quick thing, there is a host on each team, so that means we are using peer-to-peer connection. So if you have good internet, be a good guy or a good lady, start your own match where people can join you. The internet has improved dramatically since ME3 days, so maybe the curse of Walmart internet won't be so bad this time around. Alright, next let's take a look at these multiplayer maps. Now there will be 5 maps in total at launch, and while the names, could be a little better, they do look pretty good. The most well-known map is a place called Firebase Sandstorm. It was the one available at PAX East last weekend. Next is Firebase Zero. This map takes place inside a hollowed-out shell of an asteroid, which I think looks pretty awesome. Next up, Firebase Icebreaker. Like seriously, who named these places? Icebreaker is a fueling station located on a ruthless, icy planet. Moving along, another awesome name here, we have Firebase Magma. This is a foundry set on cooling pool of magma. And then finally we come to our last map, Firebase Derelict, and of course, what else could it be? A derelict ship, an empty ket ship. Now the narrator goes on to say that these are the ones available at launch, with more coming soon. That goes for maps, weapons, and assumingly character kits as well. Alright, so moving this beast along, the next screen shows us how the new XP system works. As you can see, everyone still gets their individual scores as well as their badges, but total XP between all 4 of them is 51,441. That's everyone's XP combined, and that is what you will earn as well as your 3 other teammates. You also get multiplayer credits, which can be used to buy loot crates or items in the store. And as you can see, the store is quite a bit bigger than the handful of loot crates we had last time. You have an item store where you can buy power upgrades and make, for instance, your tech damage more powerful, or it can give you extra space for more metagel, more ammo, better shields, etc. As you can see by the small scroll bar, the list is pretty long. There's a rewards tab on the far right side for completing the missions, and of course multiplayer wouldn't be complete without packs, or as I've been calling them, loot crates. We have 5 different kinds of packs at launch, with I'm sure more on the way. The first few packs, like the supply and basic pack, usually just hand out small stuff, refills for D-pad abilities like metagel, shield boost, RPGs, stuff like that. Basic packs hand out the same stuff, although weapons could drop as well. Then the larger packs start to guarantee you weapons and characters. For instance, this expert pack contains 5 random items or characters, including at least 1 rare with a small chance for an ultra rare. Alright, next let's talk a little about all these different kinds of currency. Notice at the top we see mission funds as well as Andromeda points. We'll get to mission funds in a second, but first let's briefly talk about Andromeda points. So Andromeda points are plainly put microtransaction currency. You can see at the bottom of the screen it says buy Andromeda points. Also, if you look at the symbols here in the store, you can use your multiplayer points to buy these crates, or you can use real-world money to purchase Andromeda points and then get them that way. They give you a price for both. Now, they both buy you the same stuff, and your chances are equal no matter which method you use. Alright guys, and finally, let's talk about these strike team missions. So, while you're playing multiplayer or single player, there are these different options called multiplayer missions. You can see the missions on the left-hand side here. Now, they range from just defeating enemies to completing certain objectives, all the way up to just simply establishing a presence. This is your single-player, multiplayer link. These missions come and go, and are happening in real time all around the Helios cluster. You check back in to see what kind of problems are arising within Helios, and then you can go in for yourself and clear it up for rewards that you can then use in-game, or if you don't want to deal with it, you can ignore it and let it expire. Or the third option, send in your own strike team known as the Apex Force to do it for you. Now, Apex Force is the actual name of the strike team that gets sent in. Sort of like how in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, they were called N7 Special Ops. If you remember the email that Hackett sends you telling you how he's going to let that nickname slide because they've been so effective, well, in multiplayer, you were playing as those N7 Special Ops people, and in kind of like a side timeline happening with Shepard in single player. It's just kind of unspoken that while Shepard's out saving the galaxy defeating the Reapers, somewhere out there in one of those planets, N7 Special Ops are doing the same thing at the exact same time. Now here it's the same thing, just executed a lot better. If you don't feel like going in yourself, you can send in the Apex Force. So think of them like a real squad setting off from the Nexus while you're out in multiplayer or exploring the planets. They have to load up, ship out, and then go and fight, which takes time. So this is why these missions happen in real time. For instance, if you see this first one, it states that the time required is 1 hour 42 minutes. That's how long this mission will take to complete. The catch is that Apex Force gets better with experience, and some missions will be too hard for them, and you will ultimately send them in to their deaths if you push it. However, if you start off slow and complete the harder ones yourself, at least at first, you will acquire mission funds. And mission funds are acquired by completing these missions. However, you use these mission funds to further increase your team's capability, allowing them to tackle much harder missions without the need to do it yourself. So with mission funds, you can then upgrade your team, complete more missions that increases your Apex rating. Now, of course, if you do it yourself, it will last as long as a normal multiplayer match, and after it's completed, that certain mission is over, and it can't be played again. The other missions can also expire, so choose which ones to take part in and don't let the good loot slip by. Also, regardless if you send the Apex Force in or do it yourself, these missions reward items that can be used in single player, as you can see listed under Pathfinder rewards. Now, mission traits are not modifiers. They are more or less like a way to tell the situation of that particular mission. Kind of like a summary. You'll see traits like Nightmare, Ket, Outlaw, nighttime, stuff like that. It's kind of a summary of what to expect, and that way you can plan accordingly. Now, there are modifiers present within some missions, and some work with you, some work against you. Also, you can control more than one strike team. All these strike teams together make up the Apex Force, and some strike teams fare better in certain situations or conditions than others. Now, they haven't been very specific about the different teams, but again, hopefully we'll know more here soon. Now, your Apex rating is kind of like a score that tells you how successful your team will be. It's like, your overall experience. Now, missions do vary. For instance, this says distract enemy forces. This mission takes almost 6 hours to complete because, again, this is like an alternate reality kind of deal. They want you to think that there are actual soldiers on the Nexus who can deploy and take care of these problems. And of course, if you get into the imagination that you're Ryder, then 6 hours for a mission is no time at all. It looks like rewards are given out in the same system as everything else. Lower missions that are easier with no modifiers and no traits give out bronze loot boxes and research data. And of course, others that have more traits, more modifiers, reward higher prize items like the silver loot boxes. So it's a great way to keep getting loot while you're in multiplayer or running around exploring Andromeda. Or you can just go to bed, like set up a strike team to run overnight and then come back in the morning to see what you have. Hopefully we'll find out more about traits, modifiers, and reward boxes here soon. But that's about it, guys. There was a lot of confusion about strike teams and the Apex Force multiplayer, so I hope this settles things for you and helps you get a better picture of what's going on. And finally, the last thing we're going over today are challenges and bonus stats. So bonus stats are pretty easy. Basically, the more you play, the more XP you rack up. And when you reach a certain amount of XP, like in the millions, your health can increase, your health regen is faster, shields can also increase, or your biotics become more powerful. It depends on your current character and how long you stick with it. Also, challenges are also pretty self-explanatory. A certain challenge gives you a certain reward, and there are a bunch of different types. Weapon challenges, tech challenges, biotic challenges, and they all yield different rewards. Now guys, we only have a few hours left until early access, and remember, if you do a bunch of multiplayer during your 10 hours, it will all carry over into the full game on release, so manage your time wisely. But that's it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you all so much for watching. I cannot wait to jump into Andromeda. Now, I'm going to try and stream early access, but my PC has a history of lagging its ass off while streaming, so we will see. In any case, I will definitely have it up on YouTube if you want to see my misadventures. Thanks again for watching, guys, and don't forget about my giveaway. Someone is getting a free pre-order code for Mass Effect Andromeda. I will be announcing the winner Friday night, so check out the giveaway link in the description box below to enter it, and keep an eye out for another giveaway at the end of the month celebrating the release of Mass Effect Andromeda. I've gotten in touch with a few awesome people, and it's going to be an exciting giveaway. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at SlyNation or on Facebook, SlyNation Gaming. It's the best place to stay in touch and in the know about everything Mass Effect and Destiny. Keep an eye out for more videos coming out of SlyNation here soon, but until then, this is your boy Sly, and I will see you all in Andromeda tomorrow morning. Later, guys.